Kanan has officially stepped into his own, but would you say that he's truly ready for what that means?
I don't think anybody like, and this is just in real life. I don't think anybody ever stepping into something will like truly be ready. I think you kind of just have to take it on the cuff as it comes. If you sink, you sink. If you swim, you swim. Um, I think that is the story we see unfold with this show through and through with all of the characters. This is a constant audible call of like, oh, you thought you were gonna do this one thing, but nope, surprise, you gotta switch courses. I genuinely think that is just more so what happens in that entire space of Kanan.
Absolutely, I definitely agree. And then for you, Sasha, Kanan's arc is now diverging even further from what his mother had envisioned. What was most important for you in shaping his evolution this season?
I think Kanan is starting to define himself, which is, I think, sort of what you're keying into, Shanique. I think it's interesting, both in terms of the story we're telling, also sort of in terms of the chronological age of this character. He's 17, 18 this season. And so that's the age when any young person is sort of starting to figure out who they are, as opposed to, you stop just being someone's son and you start to become your own man or your own woman at that point. You're still young, but and so I think that's very much part of Kanan's journey across this season, is defining himself for himself. And frankly, defining himself in opposition to his mother and his family. And part of that, and this is the difficult part, is having to come to terms with all the sort of the secrets and the lies and the betrayals, and also having to really reconcile and reckon with the parts of himself that are his mother's, and
Mm.
that's really complicated when you have a tough relationship with someone in your life and you see parts of that person in you. Well, you sort of hate that part of yourself, and that's not real comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Mekai, I wanted to know, it's a kind of a two-parter because I want to know, how is Kanan handling the weight of his choices this season, and how are you handling them, like as an actor portraying this character?
I mean, I'll flip the two parts. As Makai, early on with conversations with Sasha, with conversations with 50, you kind of just, and being a fan of, the actual universe, you kind of already understand what you're walking into in so many ways. I think as we actually got into crafting and building the world and building the show and delving more into these stories, I think we all kind of went a little deeper into it than we thought, or anticipated. Um, but that is, I'm again as an actor, I'm grateful that I've been chosen to help anchor a show in that sort of way, and to be trusted to, kind of just keep things kind of going, and be trusted in all these different scenarios, and be, allowed to explore and do all of these things on camera and behind camera. So that part of it is, that's just another day in the office. That is what it is to be a performer. That is what it is to be an actor. Um, and I think, Kanan, on the flip side of things, I think as any young person now getting new information and taking on the world around them, it's a lot, but I think you got to figure it out one way or another. I think Kanan is a smart enough individual that, you know, even if it was one way in his mind, he's able to kind of quick course correct. I think that's something he gets very true from his mother, is being able to take whatever scenario is there and work a little smarter on it, or kind of condense things to what's happening. So I think that's how he's handling the weight. I think you see him being stoic and strong like his mother, but you also get to see him actually rap and be conflicted about the things that he's feeling. You know what I'm saying? I think, he understands his role in the things that he's done now, but he also is still wrestling with why I feel the way I do about the things that I've done, or why I feel about what this has done to me. So it's been fun, man, as an actor and as Kanan to explore these different sides and explore these different dynamics that he has going on.
Yeah, and speaking of exploring those dynamics, my last question is for you, Sasha, because this series constantly explores identity and fate. How do you bring, your own experiences into this as the creator, to kind of like get people to like turn a lens on themselves and how we like as humans explore our own identity and fate through our parents or guardians or
Yeah, I
whoever?
mean, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. I'm not gonna lie, because the show obviously it does explore pretty heavy themes. The relationships are very complicated, in some cases very dysfunctional. And there are definitely moments where I'm like, huh, like what does this say about me? Where am I getting this from? And of course, much of it is informed from my own sort of sense of the world and sense of myself. Um, I think in terms, philosophically, Shanique, in terms of, I mean, I think for me, I kind of feel like, it's very hard for people to change. I think change is
Mm,
really, really tough. And I think it takes a lot for people to feel inspired to change. It usually takes something really big happening, something seismic in their lives. And I think, which is hard. And I've gone through some tremendous change over the course of this series, to be honest with you.
mm.
We filmed this over COVID, over a writer's strike. I actually went through some personal stuff as well. And so I think a lot of that is on the page. I mean, I do feel like a lot of that, and look, the audience doesn't see the scripts, but Mekai does, and he knows, like, I'll put a lot of sort of like editorializing in between dialogue to try to locate the characters emotionally, but also to locate myself emotionally when I'm writing it. And so much of it is about, my father died also during
Mm.
as we were shooting this in an accident. And so just so much of that I think is on the page. And it's funny, I do on some level feel like there is a hopefulness to this series, which is hard to believe. But the hopefulness that I see in the series is that you do have characters who are trying to figure things out, who are trying to be better. They may not
Yeah.
get there, but they're trying. And to me, trying is kind of 95% of the battle. And so I think ultimately that's kind of where I end up in terms of where I am in all this, if that makes sense.
Rock has fought tooth and nail to secure her power, but season four presents a seemingly fresh start. How would you say she navigates this new chapter? And would you say that this character is truly free?
Uh, I don't think in the power world, I don't think anyone's truly free. I think that moment is comes and goes, right? Like, I think that Rock is in this place at the beginning of the season where she does feel free, where she does feel like for the first time in a long time that she can just focus on expanding her business and these big, like, these business ideas that she's always had. She feels very much in the space of like feeling like she could do anything, like her son that seems to be going okay. They're business partners. She feels like she's a good influence on him in that arena. She's able to teach him some things. But business is booming as usual, but it doesn't mean that it stays that way. And so I think it wouldn't be power if it did. You get to watch Raquel navigate as she always has. Being in that position that she's in. She's fought tooth and nail to secure her power. And will she hang on to it? Will she not? That's always going to be it. But now there are new things happening, not just with her, but with the Thomases, with their mother being sick. And so there's like all of these things at play where, you want so desperately for the character to just win and enjoy the win, enjoy um, the fruits of her hard labor, but it's very short lived.
Yeah, and speaking of her relationship with her son, One thing about this show is that it constantly plays with the idea of nature versus nurture. Do you
Mhm.
think that Rock really believes that Kanan is destined for this life, or that she's still holding out hope that he'll choose a different path?
I think she's always holding out hope that he'll choose a different path because she knows what the path is going to lead to in this line of business. She's already, for herself, she already knows where her, like, you know what I mean? Like, there is no, she knows that there's nothing but bad that's going to come from all of this. But she's in the game and she's too far in. And, because he's young, she's going to continue to try and where she's tried to push him away, but I think she is always going to want for him to not pursue this. I think she would always want to fight for him to be something else. He's a very smart kid, you know. She wants better for him and this life is just not it, and she knows that.
Yeah, and another thing that like is so like kind of telling to me with their like relationship is that we see like Kanan, obviously he despises some of the ways in which his mom moves, but he inherits like he has so much of that. Um Talk to me just about like as an actress, what's that like? Like, pouring into a character, like I guess maybe like stepping in that foray or allowing viewers to like maybe see themselves in that relationship of like, you may be mad at your mom or your dad, but there's still some of the things that you don't like about them that live within you.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. I love being able to play a character that makes an audience have to question things about themselves, right? Like, because Raquel is not good or evil, because she's so many different things at all times, because she does, I've said a lot today, like she is heroic in one sense, but then she's the villain in another sense. You watch her be a mother, you watch her try so desperately to be a good mom, but also know her mom, she has all these different, like this scarred relationship with her own mother and what that means, and a lot of what she's gotten from her own mother, the hardness from her mother lives within her, and which is why sometimes she's a little hard with those that she loves, right? So like you do pick up things from your family, and that just is what it is. But also, she always is battling that as well, and we are who we are, right? Like at the end of the day, like so much of who we are comes from the people who raised us, the people who we've been around. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But yeah, I think I answered the question. But I love being able to play roles like this that makes an audience uh, perk up, listen, question themselves. Like, it's created conversations in life, all of the different conversations that I've heard about the show and what Rock represents, what Kanan represents, who are the Kanan and Rocks in their relationships and their life has been very interesting.
Absolutely. And then just lastly, Patina, were there any moments like for yourself as an actress where you felt like you were challenged or met with growth opportunities in what you had to maybe like pour from yourself as Rock in this season?
Yeah, I mean, I try to just go into her when I play her. I like to bring my whole self to her. I like to bring all of the things that I am going through at that moment, and I like to channel it through her. I always think it's like therapy for me, being able to sort of like take on this role and perform all of these different scenes, and some of them good, some of them bad. It's all very different, but it's been a really great way for me to work through my own things, being able to be her and tell this story. And Raquel, there's so many parts of her that are me, hence why I'm able to portray it in this way. I think that ferocity, that resilience, that ambition, they're all things that I think that I possess as well. I'm a mother. I know what it's like to question yourself as a mom. Um, Raquel is was she set out to be a mom? Like, I don't know. She's doing it in the best way that she knows how. And motherhood for her is very different than motherhood for someone else. Motherhood for me is very different. So for me, it's always like a learning thing to put on her shoes and tell her story. And then I always find things out about my own self, having a bit grace, trying to be a good mother, and like, am I doing enough? And, I'm having these conversations with myself.
What would you say is the biggest difference in how he is operating in season 4 in comparison to the last 3 seasons?
Um, I would say that season 4, we're going to see a whole new side to Unique, right? Like he's suffering from brain injury. He's not thinking clearly. He's come up with this idea that everybody has conspired against him, and he's completely, flying off the handle and unpredictable.
Yeah, and Unique has always been a wild card, but this season he's described more volatile and violent than ever. What would you say is his North Star or driving force to that extreme in the season?
I think he is. I think what he's most hurt about is how he had to get kind of like taken away from his family, and how his family had to get put in a very like vulnerable situation with in the event of his alleged death. So I think that is his North Star, is trying to pick back up the pieces so he could take care of his family.
Yeah, and we've really seen him walk that fine line between antagonist and anti-hero. So outside of like, I don't know, what would you say like this character has taught you about revenge or like maybe like getting a lick back?
What this character has taught me about revenge, get a look back. Well, you definitely don't want to be as unhinged. You know what I mean? You definitely want to be like a little bit more thought out. And yeah, he's just fully impressionable. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not giving it much thought. He's just like, oh, okay, yeah, everybody. It's up for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and like talk to me also, Joey, because obviously you're across several mediums. You have a mentoring program, which is super dope. You do music, you're acting. How do you like, I guess like maybe like pull like or put like characters like Unique away when it's time to like step into other things? Like, is there like a process that you go through to like maybe release him once you're finished like filming?
No, there's not much of a process that I go through to like, you know, I think for me too, right? Like it's very easy to step away from Unique when you ain't got the custom Dapper Dan Gucci on and and you know what I'm saying, the big gold medallions and all that. Like it's very easy for me to step away from that because it's a process putting him on. And it's like,
Mm.
once you put him on, it's like, okay, cool, like this is where I'm at. So it's like the moment all that stuff come off, it's like, all right, yeah, back to Joey world, you know.
Yeah. And then just lastly, if you had to use a phrase, a sentence, or even a word to describe Unique this season, what would it be?
A phrase, a word, I would say unpredictable.
Lou has been trying to distance himself from the game, but can he ever truly leave? And what would you say is his mindset going into this new season?
Are you asking me personally if I think he can ever truly leave as a person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit, probably not, bro. Like they in too deep. It's been years. It's like, so probably not, but maybe. I mean, that's the hope. That's what watching the series I would like to see if he can.
What would you say is his mindset, like his frame of mind going into this season?
Oh, fuck all this. That's what he on. Like I'm tired of this shit. He's tired of
Yeah.
himself. He's tired of the world that he's in. He just wants to escape in some way and do the things he loves, like most of us.
Absolutely. And then for you, Hailey, Jukebox is finally forging her own path. What can you share about her journey, or what would you say that you've learned the most about her journey in season 4?
You really dictate how you experience life.
Mm.
I don't think she was as aware of that fact. I think a lot of things just kind of happened to her. And I think that in season 4, she really grabs the bull by the horns and realizes that no one is coming to save her. She needs to do what she needs to do. And I think the fans are going to love that.
Yeah. And then for both of y'all, both of your characters, both Lou and Jukebox, are deeply shaped by both family and betrayal. Um, in what ways will this theme like continue to play out for them in this new season? Like, and they're like, will you say like, I guess, would you say like they're never, have they become numb to betrayal? And we could start with you, Malcolm.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much my character deals with that level of betrayal as this season goes in this particular season, but definitely how his worldview has evolved is because of those betrayals. I think that's what made him be like, I don't think I can invest in this family business anymore because of those betrayals.
This season is all about confronting the truth of who you are. So, what would you say is the biggest truth that Jukebox has had to face this season?
She's a Thomas.
Mm.
Waiting from that.
I'm going to take what Hailey said for 200, please. Thank you.
Marvin has been on a journey of redemption. How much of his past would you say still haunts him as we head into season 4?
I think our past never really goes away. We just learn how to cope with it. But sometimes I think there are parts of Marvin where he tries to rid the vestiges of his past, but it's a part of him. So, also I think being able to remember his mess ups allows him moving forward to kind of take some of those experiences to better navigate how he moves forward, but it's still a part of him. I think he just doesn't, how he would have responded previously, those may not be his first ideas, recourse, but they're still a part of him. So hopefully, I think the audience will see him navigating a little differently, a little more strategically.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for you, Tony, your character, Stefano Marchetti, he represents that old school power, if you will. How would you say he fits into this ever evolving chaos of the Thomas family's world?
Well, I think it's an education for him. I mean, I think that he's the one who's certainly there are rules and regulations that he lives by, but I think he's learning to go with the flow of the energy of this whole bunch of people. I mean, one of the things that's really, 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 I think, touched me is how much Mekai has grown. And working with him has been just so much fun. I mean, it's just so, he's just right there. And so, I don't know, I think that he, as much as he has his own rules and regulations, I think he respects the fact that they're a family. And they're that.
Yeah, and kind of staying on that family dynamic for you, London. We know that Marvin's relationship with Kanan and Jukebox is very complicated. How do you hope those watching, how do you hope that that relationship holds a mirror for those watching, like in their own maybe like family experiences and things like that?
As Tony has been mentioning throughout these interviews, I think once they're going to come to realize that it's such a family show, like minus the nice haircuts and nice wardrobe and all the major conflicts. But at the end of the day, it really is a family show. And as we know, no family goes without issues. But how do we recover from those issues and the choices we make from going through whatever it is we go through? I think those are the things that people are going to start to tune into. And that's why I think, even not to be verbose about this, but in season one, I remember the fans just saying how slow they felt the show was moving. They didn't understand we had to develop these characters in a way so that when the pace did pick up, they wanted to feel invested and really care about the dynamic of the relationships. So I think the audience is gonna really see the family side, as Tony was mentioning.
You're gonna put the pedal to the metal this season, believe me.
Absolutely.